So you're looking to find, and watch, some black holes. And there are quite a few of them, so you're in for a treat. But before you get to all the fancy ones, let's first take a look at some of the simplest ones. After all, looking at the fancy ones first would be like trying to spot a Zordorgian granulobus before you even know basic granulobus anatomy, and that would just be silly. Anyway, your basic solitary black hole is, well, basic, relatively speaking. It has a lot of mass, a bit of spin, a boundary inside of which everything, including light, can only fall inward, and beyond that, well, we actually have no idea. However, because solitary black holes are so simple, they're quite hard to spot. But if you have a keen eye, you might be able to catch a glimpse of them by looking at their surroundings. For example, black holes bend the light traveling past them, and you can see this effect, called lensing, around the edge of the black hole. There you are! Also, because black holes tend to mess with their environments, you can sometimes find one by using other clues, such as a bunch of stuff orbiting what appears to be nothing. Anyway, now that you know a bit more, grab your telescopes and enjoy. Now that you've learned about the basic solitary black hole, let's start talking about some fancier ones. While black holes themselves are indeed black, they can also be a bright source of light, putting on a great show of things like gas, dust, snacks, potatoes, missing left socks, or even stars get a bit too close. Often, this stuff can turn into an accretion disk, which is basically a bunch of gas, dust, and other stuff, circling the black hole in, well, a disk. Anyway, as everything spirals in, it gets super hot and causes the wonderful spectacle we see here. Black holes can also show off by launching powerful jets, which are made when some of the stuff falls toward the black hole, gets sped up to nearly the speed of light, and then gets thrown off at also nearly the speed of light. Some of this stuff, in the form of light and charged particles, can even make it all the way to planets like Earth. The most amazing thing about all this, though, is that it could actually appear as many kinds of brilliant, bright light, including lots of light we can't see with our eyes. So, if you really want to see a fancy black hole in all its glory, it could help to have a lot of different telescopes that can see all the fanciness. And now that you know this, grab as many telescopes as you can find, line them all up, and enjoy. Now, while a lot of smaller black holes enjoy spending time by themselves, others can be a bit more social. To be specific, black holes often love to dance with other objects in the universe. Sometimes the dance begins with two stars, long before the black hole is even part of the picture. Then, one day, one of the two stars goes supernova and pop! The dance continues, but with a new partner. Other times, when another massive object, like a star, happens to pass by a black hole, it and the black hole can't help but dance together. In either case, the black hole could even pull stuff off of its new friend to make a fancy accretion disk. Look at it go! And while these first two black holes have been paired up with stars, there are quite a few other potential dance partners out there in the universe. Smaller black holes have a great time dancing with low-mass stars, high-mass stars, white dwarfs, neutron stars, unicorn... Wait, what? Off you go then. Shoo! Anyway, they can also dance with other black holes, including really, really big ones. And sometimes, when they're dancing with a giant star, that giant star can go supernova, eventually producing another neutron star, or, voila, a second black hole. And if either of those two get a bit too close to the other black hole, you could get a new, larger single black hole. By the way, did you hear that? When two black holes collide, they also produce a ton of energy as ripples in space-time, and if we have the right tools, we can actually listen to them. Amazing! Well, there you have it. Now grab your telescopes, get out there, and dance the night away. So far, we've learned a lot about smaller black holes, but why let them have all the fun? Larger, well, much larger black holes can be just as social, but their situation is a little bit different. If we take a closer look, we can see that some of these black holes really love being the center of attention. Because they're so massive, they can gather up not just a bunch of gas and dust, but also, well, friends. In fact, they can pull in a lot of company, including stars, neutron stars, and even smaller black holes. You'll often find these social gatherings in the centers of galaxies, where some of the black holes even launch giant, powerful jets into space, just like their smaller cousins. Now, what about the black hole's friends? Well, if they're far away, many of them are content to simply zoom around in a long, lazy dance. However, as some get closer, things can get a little weird. For example, if some stars get too close, they can potentially get completely pulled apart. In other cases, if the friend is a neutron star or another black hole, and if it somehow gets really close, it can get sent off on a bizarre-looking dance around the black hole, and eventually crash into, and merge with, its big companion. Of course, these are just a few examples, and depending on the size of the friends and the black hole, things might actually friendship. So complicated. Anyway, if you're looking for a fun night out with lots of company, grab your telescopes and look no further than these giant black holes. So now that you've learned all about big black holes, and small black holes, and social black holes, and not-so-social ones, you're probably wondering, what's left? Well, while we've talked a lot about common black hole situations, there are always records to be broken. For example, the biggest black hole we know of is truly massive, being 40 billion times the mass of the Sun, and the smallest one could be only 2.5 times the Sun's mass. There's even a spinniest black hole that spins at over 1,000 times per second. Adorable. Next, depending on what planet you're from, there are also closest and farthest to think about. For example, if you live on Earth, the closest known black hole is about 3,000 light years away. On the other hand, the farthest known black hole is about 13 billion light years away. Although, what that really means is that light from near that black hole took 13 billion years to reach us. And because the universe is constantly expanding, that means now it's, in any case, it's still farthest known. Let's move on. If you're feeling more adventurous, there are also some rarer black holes to be found, assuming some of them even exist, that is. For example, while we do know about small and big black holes, we've only found a few that fit somewhere in between. It's also possible that tiny black holes may have formed back at the beginning of the universe, when everything was just really packed together. However, even if they did exist, we definitely haven't detected them yet. And finally, we'd love to catch two giant black holes crashing into each other because, well, we just haven't seen that yet. So, if extreme adventures and rare finds are on the top of your black hole watching list, grab your rocket ship or your favorite observatory and start searching.